I'm Liz Leffman and I'm chairing today's session. So welcome everybody. I'm really pleased to welcome you to this session, which is mental health in an unequal Oxfordshire. I'm the leader of Oxfordshire County Council, and I've been asked to chair today's session because, of course, mental health and homelessness are very important to us as councillors. It's something that we're working with a lot of different partners on. I'd just like to ask you, first of all, before we start, if you could keep muted when you're not speaking. And if you haven't changed your display name to include your organisation, could you do so now? Because it's easier for us then to see who's actually here. It'd be really helpful as well, because we're going to be recording this and the main webinar will be recorded. You will be going into breakout rooms. Those won't be recorded, but the main webinar will be recorded. And that recording will be available afterwards on Oxford Health's YouTube channel and will be used on social media. So if you could do that now, that would be really, really helpful. Now, I just wanted to say before we begin that some of the issues that we're going to be discussing today may be upsetting for you. And if that's the case, we have a mental health first aider who's available anytime between now and 2:30. And you can contact that person by calling Restore, which is one of our partners today, on 01865 455 821, and Sarah is putting this number into the chat in case you want to access that later. And when you do ring that number, could you ask for Simon Newton, who will be available for that period from now until 2:30. So if you want to start a discussion, by all means do put something into the chat box and introduce yourself there. And Sarah will post in the chat and monitor responses throughout today. So if you do put something in the chat, you will be responded to, and hopefully other people will be able to respond to you as well. So thank you all very much indeed. The agenda for this session is going to be begun by Alia, who's the lead for Equality, Diversity and Inclusion at Oxfordshire Mind. And she's going to be talking to us today on the impact of mental health and homelessness on disadvantaged communities in Oxfordshire. So, Alia, I'm going to hand over to you now, if I may, to start your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liz. I'm going to turn my camera off, but I haven't disappeared. It'll just help with making the screen share space a bit bigger. So do forgive me, I am still here. And hopefully the screen share will work. Lovely. Is that all right? Can you see my slides there up on the screen?
Yep. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So 2020 and 2021 have brought us overwhelming reminders that matters of inequality affect all of us every day in all that we do and all that is done to and for us. We witness the poorest, and in particular those from racialised communities, suffer the greatest losses caused by COVID-19. And after the devastating murders of George Floyd, Sarah Everard, Sabina Nessa, and many others, we had long overdue international conversations on the need for anti-racist practice, and that means speaking out and actively creating change to address racism, and critical national conversations on women's safety. And these conversations are relevant to all of us as mental health organisations and organisations tackling homelessness, because it's undeniable, well-evidenced fact that our mental health on a personal and societal level is significantly negatively impacted by discrimination and inequality of any kind. So what does inequality in mental health look like? How does it manifest in people's diagnoses, their feelings about getting help, and the treatment they receive? Well, we know that Black people are 4 times more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act. And this example of systemic racism is just one reason why people from racialised communities are less likely to get support, despite being at a high risk of developing a mental health problem. In 2017, 1 in 8 LGBT people aged 18 to 24 said that they've attempted to take their own life. And this becomes an even more alarming number when we realise that in 2020, 1 in 6 young people had a mental health problem compared to 1 in 10 in 2017. And we can see the staggering effects of poverty on mental health, because we know that people in the poorest fifth of the population are twice as likely to be at risk of developing mental health problems as those on an average income. In a survey conducted by Mind this year, 58% of people receiving benefits said that their mental health was poor. So in Oxfordshire, the events of 2020 and 2021 have highlighted to us that whilst good work has been done, there's still so much that we need to do to tackle inequality. And so we've been working hard to address mental health in an unequal Oxfordshire. And here are just a few examples of some of the work each organisation has been doing. A key area of inequality that we've been focused on at Oxfordshire Mind is diversity in leadership. We want all of those in positions of power to be more reflective of the voices and identities of the people of Oxfordshire, so that we can continue to shape our future decision-making in ways that improve mental health support for everyone. So in December 2020, we challenged stereotypical notions on who can be a trustee. We put out an inclusive advert, which was shared on Facebook, and a diversity job board, which led to over 70 applications. We now have 6 new board members who have exceptional skills and bring brilliant new voices and diversity to our leadership. Response believes in a 360-degree approach to mental health, which means recognising the various barriers to accessing support that service users might face. And they've adopted a new client-led recovery-focused model of care, and that strives to support service users to achieve their personal recovery goals, move towards independent living, and access employment, education, training, and meaningful activities. Their aim is to create a co-produced service that makes a fully adaptable recovery plan tailored to individuals' needs and preferences. Restore has recently recruited a recovery innovations coordinator to support diverse communities and those who identify as LGBTQI+. Restore run the Ripple Effect programme, which delivers mental health first aid training to Sudanese, Nigerian and Palestinian communities, to name a few, to tackle stigma and increase knowledge. The average knowledge score prior to communities taking this training was 35%, and this increased to 90% upon completion. They're also running an innovations project to further their reach through digital platforms and have set up a growing LGBTQI+ forum. Connection Support works alongside and empowers over 4,000 people a year who navigate a number of inequalities. They're at the start of their EDI journey, and their initial focus is to take a deeper look within their organisation, working together as a team to build a plan that places EDI at the core of their daily work. This year, they're investing in the new role of Client Engagement and Volunteering Manager at a senior level to grow client engagement, and they're working in partnership with LEAF, the Lived Experience Advisory Forum, to welcome their first lived experience board member. Elmore has released a podcast series for and by minoritized communities with 3 conversations in September 2021 about accessing mental health, domestic abuse and sexual violence support, and addressing power and gender. This month, they plan to release Urdu translations of the podcast series to increase accessibility, and they want to work with interested partners to provide platforms for people from minoritized communities to share their experiences and increase access to support. And if you'd like to check out the podcasts, you can listen and share your feedback on Elmore's website. Oxford Health continues to inspire and involve everyone who works across the Oxfordshire Mental Health Partnership through its staff networks, which are open to all of our organisations. These networks promote equality in service delivery and workplace culture, benefiting those Oxford Health work with and those they serve. In February this year, they marked LGBT+ History Month with powerful events. And then on the 25th of May, we came together as an organisational family to commemorate the death of George Floyd and all victims of racial violence, aggression and discrimination. And in both 2020 and 2021, Oxford Health has run month-long programmes for Black History Month. If you're able to attend any of the sessions this month, I highly recommend them. In September, they launched women's, men's, trans and non-binary support groups to work towards gender equality, and autism and dyslexia support groups to work towards disability equality. They have also created guides to overcome communication barriers for those who are deaf or who have hearing impairments. The OMHP is delighted to team up on this event with the Oxfordshire Homeless Movement, which is a collaboration of over 60 partners across the charitable, statutory and corporate sectors of the county, with a mission to ensure nobody should have to sleep rough on the streets of Oxfordshire. They provide funding and partnership working to fill critical gaps in provision for people experiencing homelessness, and have found this approach has been hugely beneficial. There are up to 20 people in Oxfordshire who have no recourse to public funds, leaving them destitute and vulnerable to abuse and exploitation. So Oxfordshire Homeless Movement are working in partnership with 3 selected and specialist delivery partners, Aspire, Asylum Welcome and Connection Support, to house and support some of our most vulnerable neighbours and help them rebuild their lives. Currently, 13 clients are being supported, with 9 housed, 8 of those thanks to Sohar Housing. And one of their next key steps will be working with Bongos to identify the next cohort to be accommodated as the last interim Everyone In venue closes. So moving away now from our organisational efforts, I'd like to bring us into a space of reflection for the final part of this presentation. Whilst we have heard and witnessed many situations during the COVID-19 pandemic of cruelty, grief and suffering, there have also been stories of hope. And these stories, both devastating and inspirational alike, remind us of the power that each one of us has to make a real difference, and the influence we all have on others, both known and unknown. Each of us in this space right now has the power to make change, whether through continued financial backing of services we believe in, or through the power we have as leaders in our organisations, and all of us through the way we treat others, the causes we support, our everyday learning, and our voices and actions. When we stop to consider power, privilege, our perspective, and the perspective of others, when we take a moment to factor inequality into our daily thinking and decision-making, when we truly listen to those experiencing inequality and give them the voice, platform, and power to shape real change, we make decisions that look less like this and more like this. So today, tomorrow and beyond, we ask you to continue to raise your voice after listening closely to those who are seldom heard by society. And together we can continue to tackle mental health in an unequal Oxfordshire. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alia, for that excellent introduction. And I meant to say, but I didn't say before you spoke, that this session is brought to you by 2 partnerships, which you very, very well described. The Oxfordshire Mental Health Partnership, which is 6 specialist mental health organisations, and Oxfordshire Homeless Mind and Oxfordshire Homeless Movement. And together you're doing amazing work around the county, and thank you so much for everything that you do. And just to say that this has come about because, of course, Sunday the 10th of October was both World Homeless Day and World Mental Health Day. So this is the reason for this coming together of these organisations in this session today. But thank you for that very inspiring talk. We're now going to move on to hear some lived experience from a couple of people who are here with us today. And it's my great pleasure to introduce, first of all, I'm going to introduce Tony Buchanan. So Tony, could you unmute? And his colleague, Leslie Dewhurst. And they're going to speak to us about Tony's lived experience. So Tony and Leslie, over to you both.
Thank you so much, Liz. That's really great. And first of all, Alia, thank you so much for your amazing talk there. I really, really enjoyed it. I know others will have done. I'm imagining that at some point, Tony's wonderful face will appear on the screen. I think at the minute, maybe we're waiting for the technology to catch up with us. But just to say that I've been privileged for years to work alongside Tony, not just actually in my current role as Chief Executive of Restore, but also through work within homelessness services before I joined Restore. And Tony's one of those people who's always around and always willing to help out and really make sure that he is flying the flag for whatever cause he is promoting and working for at that time. So I work alongside Tony here at Restore in his role as a volunteer at the Oxfordshire Recovery College, and previously in his role as a volunteer at Restore in one of our recovery groups. So welcome, Tony. Are you there at the minute?
I'm here. Yeah,
you are there.
Yeah.
Good. Now I can see you. Excellent. I'm really pleased. So I'm going to start a little conversation with you, and you're going to tell us a little bit about yourself and your share some of your lived experience with us.
Yeah.
So thank you. So just to kick off, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I come from a very traumatic, troubled background, and 15 years ago I ended up in Simon House, where I spent I think it was 3 years in Simon House. And whilst I was there, I struggled quite immensely with like looking for work, struggling with issues around benefits and mental health. Luckily, I did have a community psychiatric nurse that really was great. When I left Simon House, connections helped me to move into my own property. That's when I learned about the Restore, where at first I became a member of Restore at Littlemore, which helped me immensely with my confidence, my self-esteem issues and trust, to a point where after a couple of years there, I became a volunteer support worker at Littlemore as well, supporting the clients that were coming through our doors. At Restore, I also learned about the Oxfordshire Recovery College, where I started on, I think I've done 7 courses with the Recovery College. And I then took the tutor training course, where I am now a tutor for the Recovery College. And I do a lot of tutoring at Littlemore in the forensic spoke at Littlemore, and I work in the office. Other duties is I'm on the Housing and Homeless Scrutiny Panel for Oxford City Council. I'm on the, I also am working with the Lived Experience Advisory Forum, which currently I'm co-chair. And I'm on the Housing Ombudsman's resident panel as well.
You really are a bloke with a lot of fingers in lots of different pies, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So I know that, that during that 15 years of a journey from homelessness to being somebody who is truly interacting and contributing to the community, could you speak a little bit more about the kind of feelings of inequalities that you have had to put up with over the years? What sorts of things?
Yeah, the biggest one was actually with the job centre. I found that all their systems is based on script, and they don't deviate from that script. And I found that whenever I tried to explain about my past, about my mental health, about a lot of the struggles I was having, it's like, yeah, but why does that stop you from working? And I tried again to explain, and I said, look, I'm willing to do any course, that you put me on, but at the moment I can't work full time because it makes me ill. So in the end, I got so frustrated that I contacted my community psychiatric nurse, and he supported me that every time I went to the job centre, he came with me. And in the end, he got me onto ESA and PIP, where I wasn't being badgered every minute to look for work. And but that allowed me then to look at other avenues of how I can spend my time and to do what I need to make my mental health better. And luckily, once I left Simon House and I moved to my own property, that's when I learned about the Restore. And Restore was my defining moment in life, where people for the first time understood me, and they gave me hope, because I knew that they listened and they understood where I was coming from, to a point where it became like a family to me. And that was so important.
I'm really glad to hear that, Tony. And yes, that's again a really a privilege for me to hear that, because I can imagine that having gone through the things that you've gone through, that kind of stigma of homelessness, a stigma of suffering from mental health issues, that must have affected you, as well as all the structural things around job centre applications and forms and opinions. I mean, can you maybe open up a little bit more about that sort of stigma that is attached?
Well, see, the thing is, the stigma goes as deep as, like, being homeless is it's like a bad word. It's one of those words where people think that, well, homeless people only affects people that are bad, or they suffer from substance misuse, or they're losers in society, which for me was total opposite, because I wanted to work. I wanted to contribute to society. I wanted to earn my benefits. I wanted to do things that would make me better. But society was in a situation where, well, you're homeless, there ain't much we can do for you because you haven't got a permanent address. And we feel that at the moment, your only option is to basically lay back and die. That's how I felt, that it was just lay back and die and go away.
That's really hard to have been to that place. That's really, really harrowing, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And I mean, that sounds like systems are all kind of built in a way which don't allow for people who don't quite fit in, with the best will in the world. And of course, we also know that systems are often created to kind of keep people out of other things. Well,
yeah. When I left Simon House and I came under Connections, I felt here's a group of people that genuinely want to help me. They genuinely want to ensure that my needs and my understanding of living independently were met. And the thing I found so fascinating was they saw me as an individual with my own individual needs. And that was so important, because I weren't being seen as an object that basically applies to everybody else.
That makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
When
people are listening. I've heard you say, I'm talking over you, which is a bit daft, because I'm about to say what sounds like it's helped is being listened to and being understood and treated as an individual.
Yes, yeah, and having those, when you see somebody as an individual, you get to know exactly what support they need, and more so how long they need that support for. Mm-hmm. So rather going into a service and getting told, right, okay, we can only see you for 3 months. It's, well, 3 months is up, but we feel that you need that little bit more support to help you, because your situation is different from Mr. A or from Mr. C. Then you give that person hope, because you know that they're not being abandoned. And in today's homeless system, that's what people feel. They feel abandoned. They feel that their individuality is being ignored.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's it. So that key being individuality, being listened to, and for systems to be sufficiently flexible, because we do need systems, of course. It holds things together. thank you. That's really, really helpful. And I know I need to sum up now, but I think you've done that so eloquently through this discussion. And thank you, Tony, personally, for all the contribution you make to all those different things that you're involved with. I know you're a very busy man. Thank you very, very much, Tony.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. That was really amazing to hear your experience. Thank you very much for being willing to share that with us. And thank you, Leslie, as well. I'm now going to introduce our second speaker, and this is Paul. So Paul, are you there? Are you able to unmute? Paul's going to be speaking to Roisin, who is his support worker. Paul has been working, is a service user at Connection Support, and he's been working with Oxford Homeless Movement, helping with people who don't have any recourse to public funds. So, Paul, we're looking forward very much to hearing your experience too. So, are you there?
Yes, we are here. I'm with Paul in the same room. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Good to see you both. Thank you.
Certainly, yes. Good morning good afternoon to you. Yes, my name is Paul Jenkins, and I'm sure Roisin's going to be asking me a few questions. Hopefully, I'll be able to answer them for you.
Thank you, Tony, for sharing your story. It was really lovely to hear you sharing your journey. So today, I'm going to speak to Paul. My name is Roisin. I work for Connection Support for the Non-Recourse to Public Fund Service. And Paul Jenkins is with me today, who's happily agreed to share his story. If I can start welcoming you, Paul, and thank you for agreeing to share your story. And if you could please share your journey, starting from where you came, with how you came to United Kingdom from Zimbabwe, to the point of accessing our support and explaining quality you face.
Certainly, Roisin. Yes, my journey began, with me escaping a brutal government in Zimbabwe and coming to establish my ancestral rights to live in this country. On those grounds is what I came to this country. I was permitted a leave to remain, and I hit the ground running. I worked all through. I was an active member of society, and all that time I contributed immensely through work, society, and the economy of the country. I subsequently began to fall apart, as happened to people from time to time. With my health, I began to have health problems. I lost my job as a result, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to pay my bills. So that's where my problems actually began.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, certainly. That's where my problems actually began. I was unable to pay my bills, and my situation began to tumble out of control as I wasn't able to pay my bills. I had no control whatsoever, to try to rein my situation in. Subsequent hello? Yes, subsequent attempts at trying to get assistance and help seemed to come to nothing at all. I tried every which way I could. I was living in Oxfordshire since 2016, and in Oxford to be exact, and no help was forthcoming. Eventually, I managed to find some assistance. Because of desperation, I was able to find out that there are organizations that can help me. Initially, I came into contact with the charity Crisis, and I was helped by them immensely in my journey through homelessness. But unfortunately, there was no accommodation coming. I had to sofa surf in the meanwhile with well wishes. It was difficult. It was hard because I had no right to remain in anybody's property whilst they were not there. I was only able to get a place to put my head down at night, but during the daytime I had to find somewhere to go. My financial situation was so dire that I struggled to feed myself properly. I've got health problems and issues that require special diets and stuff like that. I was unable to meet those basic requirements, and my situation just spiraled out of control. No recourse to public funding I put down a few words here. No recourse to public funding is inhuman and a flagrant violation of basic human rights. How can a person who contributed to society and the national economy have no right to a basic human right like recourse to public funding? The failure to ensure this basic human right has far-reaching consequences that cause untold suffering to a previously functional person to becoming subhuman. How can we overcome all other inequalities when part of society is facing this blatant violation? That is something that's dear to me. I do prescribe to and support all claims of rights for all people and individuals, whether it be on the side of religion, whether it be a person's sexual orientation. I know what it feels like to be put aside and ignored. I know what it feels like to be forgotten. And to everybody out there, I just wish that this basic human right and inequality is addressed. A message to the Oxfordshire County Council and or a local government is please try and address these issues. We are all human beings, and it will go a long way to improving our society. We are all part of the society, and society cannot be whole and perfect if one part of society is excluded.
Okay, Paul, if I may ask you, how did you come to access our support?
Yes, I was actually, it was suggested to me by St. Mungo's, who had accommodated me during the coronavirus lockdown period, that they were going to put me into contact with Asylum Welcome. And Asylum Welcome, after having heard my story, they asked me if it was possible that they could share my story with a charity called Connection, and certainly I did give them permission to do that. And upon meeting with them, there was a lot of things that came to light, that there was funding made available for to relieve people like myself as a relief for no recourse to public funding. That is how I got to hear about Connections, and that is how I came into contact with Connection.
Okay, that leads me to the second question, Paul, about what has the support you've received meant to you, and how has it changed your life and supported your well-being and mental health?
It's a difficult one to equate, because, you know, for coming from being a human being and then becoming a subhuman, and then again being offered the opportunity of becoming a human being again, has meant a lot. You know, the basic needs of a human being are so basic, and we take them all for granted. But just for once, close your eyes and just think about a homeless person. If he suddenly needs to use the toilet, if he has a running stomach, homeless people eat a myriad of things, and sometimes it does affect them. There is no toilets available. It's so degrading. There's no places to have a shower, to have a bath, for basic hygiene needs, nothing. That's why so many homeless people smell. And that's why so many homeless people look the way they are. And it's so degrading that many of them find mechanisms to try and deal with this. Mechanisms like, for example, drug taking, alcohol use and abuse, to name a few. It manifests itself in mental health degradation as well.
If I can intervene you in a positive way, you move now to one-bedroom flat in Wallingford. What kind of feelings do you have? and what that impacts on your well-being and mental health?
Well, that's been fantastic. That's really been fantastic for, finally there's something tangible, something that made me feel as if I'm finally back to being a human being again. My mental health is being attended to. As you know, a lot of mental health problems are best dealt with by the individual concerned. There's no easy one pill that one can take to help with a mental health issue like anxiety and depression, but only actions help. And it's gone a long way to helping. It's gone a long way to helping me, and that in itself is something that has, been a great help.
So Paul, if I can ask you quickly, what are the most important issues you feel need to be addressed in mental health and homelessness in Oxfordshire generally to make our county fairer and closer to equal? And do you have any advice for what organisation and councils should be doing to make meaningful change?
Yes, that's one that I think should go right home. I think there's no use beating around the bush. Local government needs to take responsibility towards trying to change legislations, laws, rules, and regulations to be more helpful to individuals that find themselves in a situation rather than waylaying and or trying to avoid individuals in the hope that it will just blow over or go away. A person reaches a time when they do need help. It's not easy for a person to go and ask for help, but when they do need help, it's nice to know that you can get it. Local government, this is for you. Please try and ensure that we can try and treat all members of our society in a humane and decent way.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul, for sharing your story. I hand it back to you, Liz. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Paul. Your message is really heard by me, I can absolutely assure you. And I know that my colleagues in local government would certainly be moved by what you've told us today. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And to everybody that's shared everything this afternoon, it's been quite an inspiration for me to hear not only the difficulties that you've been through, but also to know that you've been getting the help that you need. So that's really a great result, I think, Paul, that you've got a home. I'm so pleased to hear that. And thanks to all of you for that. So we're now going to move on. You're going to be invited shortly to join a breakout room for 15 minutes, where you're going to be invited to discuss 3 questions. And I think Kate is going to put those up on the slides for us now, but they will be in the chat as well. And you will have a facilitator in each of the breakout rooms. So you'll be able to talk, and there'll be somebody there that will help you with talking through this. We're not going to record the breakout sessions. So if you've got something that you want to say when you come back to this main session, please make a note of it. It would be great if somebody could actually put any notes from your discussion in the chat, which will be the main room chat, so that we can see that when you get back. And you'll get a 2-minute warning when your breakout is about to close, so that you'll have time to wind the discussion up. So, Kate, I think you're now going to invite participants into the breakout rooms, are you?
So you should now have received an invitation to join a breakout room. So please do accept that and go and join that breakout room. And if anybody is left, I can move you into one. Welcome back. If everybody could keep themselves on mute, apart from Liz, who's going to say a few closing words now.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome back to the main session. I hope you've all had a good chance to answer those questions. And if you've got any thoughts, can you please put them in the chat? It would be really helpful to see what people made of that. It was also a great privilege for me to actually sit in on one of those sessions and to listen to what people had to say. So thank you very much indeed for that. So I'd just like to thank all our speakers today. Alia from Oxfordshire Mind, the speakers and the interviewers, Tony, Leslie, Paul and Roisin from OMHP and OHM, so from Mind and from Restore, I should say, and from OHM. And I'd also like to thank the Oxfordshire Mental Health Partnership and Oxfordshire Homeless homeless, Oxfordshire homeless, oh goodness, my brain is going, but anyway, you know who I mean, for organising today's session, because it has been really incredible for me. It's been really great for me to hear what everybody's had to say and to understand a lot better some of the issues that people face, particularly around homelessness, and how mental health and homelessness really do link together, and how we really have to think of that as a whole when we're thinking about how we can support people. So I'd like to also thank Lynette Arnott from Restore and Kate Parender from the Oxfordshire Community Foundation for managing this whole process and looking after us online. Thank you very much for that. You've managed this absolutely brilliantly. And if you want to find out more about what these organisations all do, then I think Kate is going to be putting up a slide with the contact details of all the organisations. And I think an email, I think with the recording is going to go out, and I think you can share this on your own networks and on social media. Please do, because I think it's really important to hear that everybody hears what's been said today. So just to thank you all for coming today. It's been a really inspiring opportunity for me to be part of this. And thank you to everybody who's participated, all of you for being here. And I hope that we can take this away and get some really sound learnings from the experience of this hour. We've heard so much in 1 hour. It's been quite extraordinary. Thank you all very much and have a very good afternoon.